Test, test. This is Rhett Daniels.
We have you loud and clear.
Joseph, can you hear me?
Hey, this is Fred. I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, thank you.
Check, check, check.
I hear you loud and clear.
Island. Island. What about it? Hey, but come in a little late. Hey, I think it's really good. I'm good.
Yeah, don't call me now.
Island.
Wiley.
Island. Right there in front of class. And I don't remember what it is. We got the incompletes one time on our report card. He said, y'all gonna stay in my class. So he'd call the roll, and he'd go back in his office, lay his roll down, we was out the back. But we were doing the stuff that we needed to do. And he gives the incomplete, did he? Was not a happy camper. So there for a little bit, we'd go into class and then we'd take off. Hey, this is. Down here second.
Where we're loaded.
Where we're live.
It's not, well, I think that they'll give you a warning.
Oh, so it's not live now?
No.
Audio's not on?
We are live out to YouTube right now.
Oh. Really? Still got fire. Hey, y'all ain't we got a team. Hey. Oh, I'm in the time of need.
Get some out of my door. Get it some out of my door.
clear right here for. When was the last meeting we had here? Was it the first week meeting in March? Been a while.
It was the
It was the first Tuesday in March,
We canceled the last meeting.
and after that, we didn't have one.
No, this was yours, the addition.
Sheriff, how's things going? Sunday was a week ago, and I was working, and when the deputies pulled over, someone right there by the Bluntton High School, by that time, another was Gill, and one was running. That's when we chased, that guy was, I don't know, I can't remember how dark it was, but he was going 130 on State Road 69 with his lights off.
Oh,
He made it all the way to Chips Drive by the Grand Ridge exit there and went east, and they canceled on him. Pulled it. Yeah. That's crazy. I understand y'all had another pursuit since then. Yeah, we need to go. Where's the rest?
Time,
Do we need,
9:01, let's do it.
everything good?
yeah, they'll be recording through Zoom, so whenever you get.
All right, are y'all ready to go?
Yes. Well, thank you.
Okay, is Mr. Lockie in there, or is he just off screen?
He's not in here. Let's go. But we're ready to go.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and broadcast now.
I want to call to order the Jackson County Board of County Commissioners meeting for May the 12th. This is our first live video, I guess. And we're glad to be here back in the commission room. At this time, please, we're going to stand, and Commissioner Hill will do the prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, once more, thank you for this opportunity to come together as a board, Lord, with you to bless our country and to bless our state and our nation during this time of crisis. And you give a guiding hand be upon us, and you give us wisdom when we lack. Lord, we ask you to bless our decisions today, the betterment of our city. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On the bottom.
It's getting old. That's how fast.
I'm gonna say it was dark. I couldn't see it. Oh. Okay, first up, we got the consent agenda items. Has everybody got a chance to look at the consent agenda items? Well, hold on just a second.
I actually have one addition.
Okay. And Dr. Spires is coming in too, so we're gonna pause just for a minute.
Fat boy, I can't go too far.
Oh.
Let's see, sir.
This edition. I think that's Commissioner Spires.
I give up.
Smile.
I don't have much money.
I want
everything you got,
And that character in the back.
You're not low-key there. Low-key serious.
Okay, we're on the consent agenda items, and Ms. Willan has an addition to that.
Well, approval of agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Okay, go ahead.
Just one addition under section item M, request board adoption of a resolution for a burn ban, and requesting that Chief Bruner present this immediately following his other item.
Okay, what's the, has everybody got a chance to look at the consent agenda items? I mean, I'm sorry, the agenda. What's the pleasure of the board? Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Spires, second by Commissioner Peacock. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Thank you. Okay, now we're moving on to consent agenda items. Has everybody got a chance to look at them? Is there any questions or comments?
So moved, Chair. Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Peacock. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried, 5-0. Okay, item B. Is Miss Sandy on, or TG?
Good morning. Just want to kind of give you an update as far as what the health department is doing in regards to COVID-19. To date, we have performed 824 tests for COVID-19 in Jackson County. We have 97 positive cases. That puts our positive rate at about 11.8%, but it's worth noting that some of that data is skewed a little bit from the outbreak that's going on at ACI at the moment. There's continuing testing going on over there at that facility, and that will continue until we see what's going on. There are 964 negative tests at ACI, so that will bring our percentage lower as those results continue to come in. To give you an idea of what the health department is doing as far as testing is concerned, we're performing drive-through testing today and Thursday at our offices in Mariana from 9 to 12. This afternoon, we'll be going to Steve to perform a drive-through testing at a facility over there. We'll be going to Jacob City on Thursday, and we'll be on Sunday afternoon here in Mariana doing some testing at a church on Orange Street. Basically, that's what I've got. I'll be glad to address any questions that you all have.
Okay, Commissioner Lockie.
TJ, I think I asked you this the other day, but if I did, just tell me you did and we'll go on. When a person tests positive, that goes from the first one to the 97th one you just said, okay? Now, when they clear out or if they test negative, I mean, you test them, I think, twice.
Depending on the circumstances.
Okay, they're on circumstance. So does that number go away, or does it slide, or is it just still a part of the positive count in Jackson County when you may not have that many positive cases?
That's correct. Once a person tests positive, they stay on our number until, they're there forever. Same with hospitalizations.
Okay.
You'll see a hospitalization or two on there. Those people are not necessarily in the hospital, but they have been hospitalized at one time, so they stay. However, there is recovery data that is coming. They're working on the procedure to do that, but you should soon start seeing recovered data being reported by the Department of Health. So that will mitigate that number a little bit.
So we have to do the math to do that, or do y'all adjust that number?
As far as recovered cases? No, it will be designated as recovered cases. So we may have 97 positive, and we may have 94 recovered.
Okay. So based on today's numbers, ballpark, how many people do you think are, or do you know of, that are not positive anymore out of that 97?
There's probably, I'm not sure of an exact percentage, but good, if you look on the dashboard, if you look under people under public health monitoring, that is typically a better indication of how wide it is spread as opposed to the number of positives. So as the number of people under monitoring decreases, that's a better indication of where we are in the disease process.
So you wouldn't fathom a guess about how many of those are not positive anymore?
I would suspect, again, because testing positive, we've seen actually people who test positive sometimes 6 or 8 weeks after initially testing positive. So there's a lot of debate about as to how long after you test positive are you still infectious. And so that's why they've been kind of hesitant to release the recovered data, because they don't know particularly.
But if they didn't test positive anymore you took them off that bottom of, off that number, and if they retested positive, you just add them back on the list.
No,
wouldn't you?
no. The people are the same. Once you have the tests are, we have 97 individuals, not necessarily 97 positive tests. You understand what I'm saying? So the 97 is number of people. We may have performed 100 tests that have come back positive, but those may be duplicates of those individuals that have tested positive again. If that makes sense.
It kind of doesn't, but I
You
see
understand
what
what I'm
you're
saying? So
saying.
if we tested them again and they tested positive again, they don't count as another positive result.
Right.
That person is still.
So that number, that 97, if you had 40, say 40 of them are cleared out, they're okay, that number still would reflect that Jackson County had 97.
Correct. We have had 97 positive cases in Jackson County, and that number is going to stay, that number is not going to decrease. Now, the recovered data is going to come out that that will mitigate that number some as far as these people have recovered according to DOH standards.
So they only go on the recovered list once they test negative twice?
That is not necessarily. No, recovered, it depends on who, like, there's different standards for healthcare workers that may be going back to work, have a negative test to go back to work. Recovered could mean they've gone through the 14-day isolation period and they're no longer symptomatic. So that's why it's being delayed a little bit, I think, is just to be able to determine exactly what recovered means. They were hesitant to bring out recovered data in the fact that we don't know what the long-term effects of this disease are going to be. You know, they may show up with some lung issues down the road associated with this. And that's why recovered has been kind of it's not been put out as far as truly recovered at this point.
Go ahead.
Okay. Mr. Hartweiler, what is is there a typical time period from the time that you test positive until you have recuperated? What's that time span?
It varies from person to person. Typically 14 days is the time frame involved that we would count somebody for social isolation or for public health monitoring. 14 days from the time they test positive to we would monitor their symptoms.
So I guess that's,
and if they become symptomatic, that may adjust that time frame some, but typically speaking, 14 days is the goal.
okay, and that depends on the state of the person's immune system from the time that they contract the disease until they recuperate.
Right, the incubation period is typically 14 days. However, if you're exposed to someone, depending on that particular person, they could become symptomatic sooner than that, but 14 days is typically the longest term isolation or the longest incubation period.
Okay, one other quick question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Do we have any hospitalizations right now?
The data will be coming out this morning. I think that the dashboard is showing 2 hospitalizations at this point. I'm not exactly sure of the status of those 2, but that data changes as people go in and out.
Okay, thank you.
So that really, that Jackson County with a 97 is a small number, you got a lot of counties with many, many more. So really, in a degree, that's a skewed number all over the state, the total number of positives, wouldn't it be?
I can see where it could be construed that, yes. I mean, because all the positives are not, you don't have 97 people right now walking around in society that are positive and being able to transmit that virus. I think that's what you're getting at. Yes, sir.
So are the hospitalizations the same? If you have 2, you're going to always have 2?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner.
How many cases or how many people are y'all monitoring now in Jackson County,
I'll have to look.
excluding ACI?
To fathom a guess, probably 65, something like that.
55?
65, something like that. That number is available and it changes daily on our dashboard. So that number is readily available there. And again, that changes as people come on and off, but there's quite a few people that are being monitored. And monitored just means that you've had a contact with a positive case. You're a person of interest as far as that's concerned.
So they haven't tested positive?
Not necessarily, no, sir.
Okay.
TG, how many cases do we have out of the 97 that are from ACI?
2/3 of.
It's a good amount, yes, sir. And that number is increasing too, but that number is pretty well skewed by the number of cases ACI. I think we have 27 positive cases
That are not.
that are non-institution related.
Yeah. Oh, I knew the numbers was big, but because
And you're seeing the same thing in I think we discussed Liberty County and things like that. Some of the other counties that have these large institutions that are testing positive.
well, that's good to know. That's not like you said, 97 walking out. Well, shouldn't be walking out on the streets anyway if they got
Right.
it. But okay,
Is they, I'm sorry.
go ahead, Mr. Spires.
What treatment modalities are being, provided for the inmates with testing positive? Are they left the institution, are they transferred, or?
No, sir, from what I understand, the DOC protocol is to isolate them in the institution, provide supportive treatment, care as necessary.
Mhm.
That's typically a DOC type protocol, but yeah, they're isolated in whatever, they've got isolation protocols and they've got COVID response plans.
Are there any other corrections institutions that have cases?
In the inmate population, not that I'm aware of, we've had, some staff that are out of state, and that's something that you don't particularly realize, how many people that work at these institutions don't live in the state of Florida or
Right.
Jackson County, so. That information also is available on the DOC website, and I'll be glad to forward you all to look at. It's updated daily also. They have, DCF maintains the website, as does DOC, as far as number of cases and staff in their facilities.
Anybody else? A concern I'm sure that a lot of the citizens of Jackson County would have is, what are they really doing with the employees that are working in the prisons? How are they treating that? They're coming back out in society. They tested every day on fevers or whatever. Do you know? And I know you don't work at prison, but.
No, that's great. They have implemented their protocols where they should be screening their employees and their staff members. Now, anybody who tests positive, obviously, will be placed under public health monitoring and excluded. But just like the healthcare facilities and things like that, DOC has protocols that they're screening.
And DOC is their own little animal.
Yeah, I kind of.
With the way they operate. And basically, what they do for the employees, when they come to work, they ask them a handful of questions. And depending on how they answer them, whether they tell them to go home or go on in. So they don't check the temperature on a daily basis. Now, I got several relatives at work over there. They just don't check them they don't check them every day. Which is concerning, because obviously it's the people that are coming in and out of the institution that's bringing that COVID-19, whatever you want to call it, into the facility.
Well, that's something that we are trying to proactively address with our drive-through testing sites, where we are looking for those people who may be, for lack of a better word, carriers of the virus that are asymptomatic. And that's what we're doing this drive-through testing. You don't have to be symptomatic. You have to have an appointment, come test, and just see kind of where you stand.
That's anybody, right?
Anyone.
I think Sandy put that out in the email the other day, that they were going to publicly announce that, but anybody can come to your health department and say, I want to be tested.
Anybody can come to, we're running a drive-through pod. When I left, they were lined up to the road, and again, we're gonna be at Steve's this afternoon. We'll be at Jacob on Thursday. We're gonna do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays in our offices right now. And if we need to increase those days, we can do that too.
Are you having a good response?
We had about 20 cars lined up when I left, about 9 today, so I hope so.
Got Dr. Spires next. Sorry.
Is there been any tracking implemented on the staff who worked at the correction institutions?
Yes, sir. Anyone that tests positive will go through the same contact tracing process as we do just any individual that didn't work in an institution. Contact tracing process is the same. 2 days prior before they came symptomatic, and we would contact trace them just like we would anyone else that tested positive.
Commissioner Pickup.
Where are you going to be in Sneeds?
We're going to be at St. Peter Missionary Baptist Church, kind of at the intersection of McCowan Mill and Section Avenue. We have partnered with Ms. Franklin with NAACP, and she recommended Adrian Abner's church over there. And so that was just kind of our first option. We can you know, we'll see how that goes, and we'll go back to cities. We're gonna go, we're going to visit these communities as many times as we need to.
So you can walk, and thank you for this trove of information you're sharing with us. But can you other than doing the drive-through, can you just walk into your facility and say, I want to be tested?
If you'd like to do that, yes, sir, we'll work that out. We would like to, based on, because our building is closed right now, give us a call, we'll meet you in the parking lot or whatever, we'll figure that out. If somebody wants to be tested, yes, absolutely, send them to the health department, we will take care of that.
Any more questions?
We were going to open it to questions from the public, so that he can not have to hang around.
Okay,
Oh, I'm good.
go ahead. Is it Fred or Fred? Go
Yes,
ahead.
sir. All right. So at this point, we're going to open the comments to the public. If you are dialed in via phone, you will use *9 to raise your hand. And if you're on a computer, you can raise your hand via the raise hand feature near the bottom of the screen. At this point, I see no hands raised.
TG, we got one question right here.
I'm curious, the testing that you're doing would only test if they're actively with the virus. Is there any plans on testing the public to see who may have had it and been asymptomatic and have to have antibodies in their blood?
That brings up the antibody test, and that's a very good question, yes, sir. BOCC is currently doing some antibody testing. Testing that they're doing is a blood draw test, and that is an FDA-approved test. Currently, there are no FDA-approved finger stick tests, but we hope to be able to make that available in a more wide-scale option later on, yes, sir. The UH is doing some of that now. We don't have the capability locally.
Yep, got another question.
When you get a press release or notify us and the public, when you say that someone has tested positive that had contact with a known positive, does that kind of mean that someone knew that they were positive and they were with other people and they kind of, for lack of a better term, called it from them?
Yes, sir. Yeah, when you hear that terminology, contact or a previously known positive case, that could be somebody who's in social isolation and their family's there, and maybe their family member got it from them or something like that. But yes, that terminology is used to differentiate between community spread. Right? So when they say there's contact with a known positive case, that means we know that this person has it, and we have we've done the contact tracing, we've identified the people that these have been in contact with, and that person that they've been in contact with has tested positive too. So that's when we can link them back to a previously known positive case. That's what that means.
So the known positive knew he or she was positive, but still got in contact with someone that was not positive.
Possible, yes. And that could have been, before they actually tested positive or something of that nature. We would hope that these people that are positive, that are under social public health monitoring are not out in the community and they didn't get it that way. But
tell me how you do monitoring. Tell me how, is it a phone call or you go visit?
It's a phone call.
Do you ask questions or?
We ask questions about their temperature. We ask them to monitor their temperature. So we ask them their temperature, all that's documented. If they're having any symptoms related to COVID-19, so it's all monitored and documented as part of the process. And that's 7 days a week on weekends.
There's been a lot of discussion about children and how they manifest the disease. Have you seen any difference in terms of how kids are showing the disease versus adults?
As far as the way that the symptoms are playing out, the older and immunocompromised are still considered the most vulnerable populations for that. We're not seeing, there have been some, but we're not seeing a lot of more serious manifestations in the younger capabilities. Right now, the focus is still on the older population and those immunocompromised systems.
TG, thank you.
Thank
Thanks
you all.
to to Miss Sandy and all the staff at the health department. I know this is a lot on y'all compared to what you normally do, so we appreciate it, and thanks for keeping the board, knowing what's going on.
This is our job, and we're happy to help. I do want to say though, in speaking with your constituents, if you hear of something that would make this testing process easier, or if you have locations that you'd like for us to visit, let me know. We'll be glad to accommodate them. We've got a good team. We're portable. We can go. We can set up in about 30 minutes. Traffic flow is something to be considered now that we're going to look at after some of these things. But if you hear of somewhere that we need to go, or you see there's a need somewhere that we've not identified, please reach out to us. We'll be glad to accommodate that.
Well, we appreciate the dreaded text that we get, but we don't want no more, okay? No. No, thanks for keeping us. Thank you.
Chairman, we may want Mark to place on the floor from the stand.
Yeah.
Because Ms. TJ wasn't in the camera, so I said, right that spot right there in front.
There won't be anyone else today coming in.
Okay, that's good. I
But we will for our
Okay,
night.
that's fine, that's fine.
We've seen your arm a time or two.
Thank you, TJ.
Thank you, TJ. Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. Jeff Johnson, and he'll be calling in. Fred, do you have him?
Can you say again?
We have Jeff Johnson on the agenda.
Yes.
Hey, Fred.
We've got him here.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes. Jeff Johnson, Director, E911 Communication Systems, asking for board approval of the 2020 spring grant quote from CenturyLink for the E911 department.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lockie, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Okay,
Thank you.
Mr. Johnson. Okay, do we have Miss Pam Pritchard on the line, or are you?
I'll
handling that?
present her item.
Okay.
This is a request for board approval of adoption of resolution for USDA online application for broadband for GP strategies on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners. This
So
is a-
moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, you got a motion by Commissioner Peacock, second by Commissioner Lockie. Do you need to add something to that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Okay, item E, Mr. Rodney Andreessen.
Good morning, Commissioners. Have a request for approval of update of our memorandum of understanding. These are the memorandums we use when we activate for the hurricane season. Just asking for approval.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Spires. Yes, sir.
I got a couple of questions. Mr. Andreessen, do you have any type of an agreement with the local ham club?
We don't have so much an agreement with the Ham Club. They've always been a supporting agency for us. There's never been any formal documentation between the two of us, but we do support them and they support us on a large scale.
I notice you have interlocal agreements with Washington and Holmes County. What about Calhoun and Gadsden?
We've never, that I know of, had an agreement with them on that I know of, not since I've been in office.
Don't you think that it might be a good idea because they are contiguous counties?
I agree, and we can take a look at that for you. I can get some information for you on that after the meeting.
I think if you're going to have one with Washington and Holmes, you might as well do the other contiguous counties.
And we can take a look at that, and I can get you some information. I'll be more than happy to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, we got a motion and a second on the floor. Any more discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you, Mr. Andreessen. Okay, item F, Chief Bruner.
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good morning, Commissioners. This is board approval proclaiming the week of May 17th through the 23rd National Emergency Medical Services Week, celebrating EMS and the vital public service that it provides to our community. And we're also asking the chairman to sign the proclamation.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lockie, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Chief, did you have something else you want to add here?
Yes, sir. I can go ahead and do that if you're okay with it.
Yes.
This was brought for me yesterday by Mr. David Kent, who is the supervisor for the Chipola Forestry District for the Florida Forest Service in Mariana. He brought to my attention to bring to the county commission and burn ban and resolution order and prohibiting outdoor burning. The following counties: Holmes, Washington, Bay, and Gulf counties, their Board of County Commissioners have enacted a burn ban as of yesterday. And talking with Mr. Kent, conditions are not going to improve for at least the next 10 days, according to their forecast. And the humidity is forecasted to drop this week to around 20%, as it did last week when you saw the Walton County and the Santa Rosa County fires. So they're asking our board to consider a burn ban. This would prohibit all outdoor burning. The only activities that it would allow for is cooking of food exclusively contained in a gas or charcoal grill. This order would be in effect and will expire when the board is updated and conditions improved, and I can bring that update to you guys. Or we could look at it on a 2-week basis, just depending on how the board feels about that.
Okay, got a question about Commissioner Hill.
Yeah, Charlie, does this include?
Yes, sir.
Does this include the unincorporated part of Jackson County, the entire county? Does the cities have to do their own burn bans?
According to Mr. Kent, this would include the municipalities.
Okay.
Yes. And also, and speak with Mr. Kent, the resources from the Florida Forest Service obviously are dedicated on the larger fires. They're still working the 5 Mile Swamp Fire in Santa Rosa. They still have units in the South Walton County fire, and they do have some units still monitoring the fire in South Washington County. Last Friday, we were only left with one plow unit in Jackson County. They tried to remain one forest ranger with a plow unit in the county, and they're still trying to shuffle resources from Central and South Florida as well. But you know, we're going to be limited on resources.
At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adopt a resolution for the burn ban.
So moved.
Okay, so here's second. Okay, go ahead.
Charlie, I'm in favor of this burn ban, but I think that as soon as conditions improve, we should go ahead and lift this thing. So whatever mechanism you need to get authority to do that, let's not wait 2 weeks after we get a good rain in order to lift it.
Sounds like it's gonna be almost 2 weeks.
Well, I mean, after we get a rain, let's don't wait till the next county commission meeting. This is something perhaps the fire chief and the administrator can do.
Yes, sir. I will, as soon as I get briefings from the Florida Forest Service from the Chipola District, I will pass that along to Ms. Willan and the entire board.
Thank you.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Spires, second by Commissioner Lockie. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you, Chief Bruner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next on the agenda would be Mr. Rhett Daniels.
Yes, sir. Good morning, everyone. What I have for you to do today is a request to postpone the opening of Blue Springs by 1 week and open the facility on Saturday, May 30th, 2020 at a 25% capacity. We maintained around 315 people last year as our daily average. 375 people would be our 25% capacity. And also in your packet, you can see a breakdown of prior Memorial Day weekends where we have seen crowds well in excess of 1,500 people on the actual Memorial Day. So my recommendation would be to postpone in order to limit the crowd and open on May 30th, 7 days a week for the remainder of the season.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Rick, I'll make a motion.
Okay, we got a
Approve that.
motion by Commissioner Lockie.
Second.
Got a second for Commissioner Hill.
Question. Rick,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned 315 and then you mentioned 25% would be 375?
Yes, sir. Our what's comfortable to operate the park, in my experience, is around 1,500 people. Now, obviously, that's not saying that 1,500 people at a time are inside the park. We can only monitor the people that are coming in. We don't count them as they exit. So 25% of 1,500 is 375. But last year, our daily average was only 315. So our daily average for the 2019 season, we never met 25% capacity. Now, obviously on weekends, that number is going to increase, but throughout the course of the week, throughout the course of a season, our average last year was only 315 people.
So how do you intend to monitor that count?
When we operate the gate, the register at the gate has a count function that we can monitor the number of people that have entered the park. Obviously, we don't have it'll be relying on staff to keep track of people as they exit so we can allow more in. I really hope that we don't get into a situation where people are stacked up at the gate waiting on people to leave midday. But if that's something we encounter, we'll do our best to overcome it.
Are you gonna get some signage to kind of indicate that?
Yes, sir. We're going to be,
PSAs?
yeah, we're going to be doing some additional signage. We're going to, rely on our local media to get the word out, social media as well, letting people know what our plans are going to be. We're going to be briefing staff to keep an eye on people. We'll have additional guards, not just on the water, but kind of keep an eye on people as they're recreating, if they're laying out on the beach or whatever. My plan is to not do any pavilion rentals, that way to cut down on the larger groups. And we're actually going to remove half of the picnic tables from the pavilions to keep the number of people down inside the pavilions.
Commissioner Peacock.
Mr. Chairman, Brett, it sounds like you've got a good plan for the remainder of the year, but why push it back a week? It looks to me like, I know we got Spring Creek that's open. We're going to be putting more pressure on the facilities that are open. Why not just open for Memorial Day and make sure you got the appropriate signs posted and you put it out accordingly?
Because I feel like people will stack up at the beginning of the day and cause traffic issues, as well as, nobody likes to be turned away. So if we postpone to get through that higher peak and people coming in, we'll have a lot less likelihood of traffic accidents, as well as guests that have been turned away.
Well, you're going to have to turn people away anyway. Later, when you do open, if you reach 325, you're going to be turning people away. So how are you going to deal with it a week from, or whenever you're planning on opening?
We'll have additional staff to help monitor the parking lot as well as the road coming in. And we're just going to make sure if they come in and they're not allowed in, we're not going to let them stage up. We're just going to turn them right around and tell them to come back later.
Why can't you do that on Memorial Day?
Because it's a lot easier to do that with 600 than it is 18 to 1,500.
Well, 600 is a pretty big number.
Yes, sir, but not near compared to, 1,000 plus.
Yeah, just one question. So the day that we open, the next weekend, we're gonna be at full capacity. Are you still saying you're gonna monitor 25% then too?
No, we'll be at 25 when we open. If y'all choose to do it on the 30th, we'll be at 25% until the guidelines change coming down from the state and the CDC as far as social distancing.
I was asking, were you through? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah, I'm finished.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion?
Just a general question. Do we have any way to capture, in town or in county versus out of county, participants?
Only if we had someone keeping track of the vehicle tags, which not all tags have the county of origin on them. So other than asking for each individual's personal identification, we do not.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor to grant the request of our Park and Recreation fella. Any more discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm going to vote against this, and I want to go on record as saying that I think we should open this thing. I don't see the difference a week is going to make. If there's a traffic issue, that belongs to the sheriff. The sheriff can control traffic on Blue Springs Highway. Somebody's got law enforcement. It becomes a law enforcement issue at that point. So, and I think you're going to have the same problem a week later that you're going to have on Memorial Day.
Except for the surge, I agree with Red that the surge is the issue. I mean, obviously, because of the holiday naturally.
Oh, I
mean,
understand.
Those numbers, yeah.
Sheriff, did you want to add?
Yeah, I would say that there's already going to be an influx of people from everywhere coming into Jackson County just because it's a holiday weekend. And we have been, as you're aware, we've been shorthanded of staff, and to put an additional responsibility of maintaining traffic, and we always have issues that come up at the park, plus the lake. Lake Seminole's going to have a lot of people on it. We're going to have issues probably on Spring Creek. We always do, no matter, the weekend is one thing, a holiday weekend is entirely different. So I support what Red's recommendations are.
Red, can we also do that and measure, direct people to the locations that we do still have open, like Lake Seminole, which is a lot larger, can disperse a lot more people of that same area? Can we say, that Lake Seminole is open, just direct them somewhere else? Because obviously if they come there, they want to do some type of water activity, but we want to marginalize that. But is there a way that we can say, hey, but our other areas possibly are open, especially the larger one like Lake Seminole or wherever some other waterway is not shut down, that may also, divert them to at least not ruin the weekend?
Yes, sir. We can obviously direct them to other facilities. The only downside is without some type of boat or kayak or some type of vessel, many other areas aren't as enjoyable just because of the way they're laid out. Turner's Landing will remain closed, but Spring Creek will be open. If someone had a tube they could do, Bear Paw will be running trips. That's always an option. Lake Seminole will be open, but Sneed's Park in behind McDaniels is about the only place with a good shoreline or any way to enjoy without something to get them on the water.
Okay. Any other thing?
I have a question for the sheriff. Sheriff, this is not related to, let's go ahead and vote on that and then I'll ask.
Okay. Any more discussion on this? Okay. All in favor to grant the request, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carried 4-1 with Mr. Peacock being the one. Okay,
Thank y'all.
thank you.
We're still gonna have traffic issues at Magnolia on Labor Day weekend with our side of the Spring Creek and then Bear Paw side of what they do. I know, I hate to put the burden on you, but is there a way that you can have somebody monitor what's going on at Magnolia?
We're going to have, like we've been doing in the past, normally when they put in an Highway 90. It takes them a little while to come out at Magnolia. So we actually stage that officer at Magnolia as when they're coming out. Because a lot of times alcohol, temperature, just, people don't water that period of time, and it does become quite congested. So a lot of our issues occur when they're coming out of the water. So we'll have someone at both the exit and the entry point, and we will have deputies that are actually working the road to make as many trips by Turner's Landing as they can.
Turner, that's my next issue.
On Magnolia, they're bad about lining up the sides of the road.
Parking is an issue under the
Yes.
best of conditions, and that is one of our few places that we can actually launch from if we have to launch to the rescue.
Mr. Chairman, don't we have, no parking signs now posted there on Magnolia Road? So can we have that enforced? Yeah, but I say, can we have law enforcement just go ahead and, I don't know, preempt that if they're parking there, have tow trucks come get it? I mean, we don't want to create a secondary issue with the safety.
People cross that bridge on foot with traffic going, that's a narrow bridge. Resources on the road, I mean, we've been very busy lately.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Especially people, I don't know, the tempers are running.
Is there a way you can direct that if there are people parking there, can't the tow people go ahead and remove those at your order? I mean, I'm just saying that, but they've already been notified because there's signs there. I mean, we put them up several years ago and they're very well documented. And again, with the fluctuation, I just see that if we don't have that many parking on a small right of way, you're creating another issue.
We can try our best to accommodate that. It's just gonna take someone, the amount of cars that normally park there, if we take an officer sign, they're just about to monitor that.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I know they're doing their best. Thank you, sir.
We got a feeling everybody's been locked up and things are starting to ease up a little bit, so there's gonna be people everywhere out.
Yeah, I'm telling you, the US 231 traffic will certainly increase, and we have a lot of activity on the west side of the county.
You can already tell it's picking up now.
It's gonna be a very busy weekend, always the first and the last of the season.
Is Compass Lake closed? Are they closing that boat landing there? I haven't heard. I mean, that's usually,
It's our boat, right?
yeah, that's right.
There's been people on it, I think.
Red, are you still online?
Yes, sir. Compass Lake ground, everything is open. Nothing's closed but Turner's Landing. That's under the county's authority related to water.
Pressure off the
Now,
landing.
some of the state parks has got some regulations on them, right? They're not wide open, are they?
That's correct.
Yeah, there's some of the state parks has got some
Some of them
things is open and some things are not.
Some of them have regulations and others are just
Right.
open, depends on the type of activity.
Yeah.
What about Blue Spring or the Blue Hole out at the caverns? Is it open?
I don't know.
Probably on state, anything where a lot of people congregate. Probably not, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. Thank you, Red. We already voted on that. Okay, item H, Ms. Tracy Taylor.
Good morning. Requesting board approval to appoint the ranking committee for land surveying services. The previous contract for the surveying services has recently expired, and at the September 24th, 2019 board meeting, the board approved the request to initiate an RFQ for land surveying services. We're seeking board approval of the approached ranking committee at this time. Commissioner Jim Peacock, Commissioner Clint Pate, Scotty Taylor, Carlin Tidwell, and Rhett Daniels.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Spires. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Okay, Ms.
Thank
Taylor.
Yes, sir. Requesting board approval of the ranking sheet and the contract for the emergency road sign repair and replacement. At the January 14th, 2020 meeting, the board approved the initiation of the RFP for the emergency road sign repairs and replacement for the road signs that were damaged or destroyed due to Hurricane Michael. After a review of the submitted bids, the staff recommends the contract be awarded to Acme Barricades, LLC, with the lowest bid of $948,455.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Lockie. Go ahead, Commissioner Lockie.
Do they have a master list of the road signs that are gone or destroyed, replaced? I know that.
Yes, sir, they do.
So now, and there's DOT rules and regulations about how signs are supposed to be placed how far from the intersection and various things. Does this company have that expertise? Are they certified by DOT?
Yes. Yes, sir, they are. And I also had All Day Howell review the bids from the people who submitted them, and they said Acme Barricades was one of the best.
Mr. Hill?
Yeah, I noticed one of our neighboring counties got their signs done, and the type lettering is smaller than previously on the road signs. It's literally hard to see. How large of a text we don't have on our signs on this one? I would suggest all as we can at that price.
That I'm not sure about. I'll be happy to check on that and let you know.
Okay, well, yeah, well, you don't have to let me know. I mean, you follow up with me, but my point is that we want it as large and visible as we can lengthen the sign or whatever, just to make it more visible.
Would the spec it out to, I would say that they need to be the same size that they were.
Or larger, at minimum, yeah. But I know the one they did down there, they're small. They're like 3 inch, and that's, you literally have to get up to the road to see it.
Mr. Peacock?
Tracy, looking at the information you provided us, it says that this expense may be covered by FEMA. May is a.
This is a FEMA project.
Okay, so it is going to be covered.
It is a FEMA project, yes, sir.
You didn't answer my question.
It is eligible for FEMA reimbursement, yes, sir.
Which is May. Which is May.
All right.
If we document everything properly and we walk through the process according to their rules and regulations, it's eligible for reimbursement.
Okay.
I know that we had concerns about discussions with roads and things. Please make sure that if they do, somebody checks the spelling. Or the road, we have a lot of issues. For example, DOT. Louisiana. Avenue, and they were, Pennsylvania, and my staff called it, and so I reached out to get they corrected that, so.
Okay, I'm a
Thank you.
sorry, go ahead.
No,
Neophyte this, but is there any way to increase the reflectability of the signs? You know what I'm saying? Make them more reflective?
I think there's regulations on that. A lot of ours is probably old, so that you can't see them. They should be all, there is specs for road signs.
Okay.
Yeah,
Could we
a lot of
find out
ours
those
is
two
old.
issues before that company starts the
Yeah,
job?
the size and the reflectability.
The size of the lettering and the reflectability.
Yes.
Okay, yes, I'll certainly follow up on that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and follow up with the Sheriff's Department 911 on the spelling and the naming of the roads. Yeah, they need
Okay.
But the font size, is that standard?
Well, I don't know what
Yeah, y'all can drive
county, there was one county that made their own signs.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that. I just know the signs now are different than they were before.
They should be standard size. I mean, I've done many a sign design and they
Can we
standard signs.
I mean, also the specification may not be specific enough, but can we find out the lettering, when you find out the lettering size, see what cost analysis is that we can get them, I mean, vary the price, what they bid out.
I'm sure that we just need to check and see what the specs was compared to what the DOT's was.
When's the notice of commencement on this?
Ms. Tracy?
Oh, it's normally 15 days after I let them know that they've been awarded the contract.
Well, you could have someone from the company come to us at a board meeting and we can answer those questions. Or
Okay.
let the administration take care of that.
Yeah, without doing, if we don't do, if it's 2 weeks, with 2 weeks, if it's 2 weeks when we approve this, if we approve it contingent upon the size and all, then Scotty or Minute can give the administrator and let us know to save us 2 weeks if that's a big deal. But as long as
We don't want to change the spec. I don't know what's in the spec.
Okay. Oh, I know.
I don't think
agree.
anybody,
Should be famous
I don't think
specs,
anybody knows what's in the
Well,
spec.
I do know Scotty was involved. Joseph Alday developed the specs, did all that, but then Scotty has been involved on this end of the project.
All this could be that we just don't know what's in the contract, but we need to check it.
But the biggest thing is that they meet minimum, at least minimum DOT standards.
Oh, yeah.
So do y'all want them to come to the meeting?
Yes.
the next meeting.
Why don't
Scotty
we,
available?
why don't we ask the
Scotty's on the phone, if y'all like to speak with him. Fred can unmute him.
Scotty?
He can answer, yeah.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I'll get all the information. I was trying to find the packet right here in front of me. Couldn't get my hand on it, but I mean, I know it was all done to the MUT CD and FDOT specifications, you know, and all the signpost stuff will meet FDOT specifications. But I've written all this down, and I'll get all the information. I'll get with Joseph right after this and make sure and get actual letter sizes and all that, so we can we'll have it. But I can have them come to the next meeting if y'all want to.
Well, this is good concerns. We just want to make sure they're done right to begin with. That is a lot of money and pretty much sounds like replacing every sign in Jackson County almost. But the MUTCD, I know it. Yeah, most definitely. The specs are probably right, but these are good questions. We just need to make sure they're right.
Right, and like I said, I'll get all these answers.
Okay.
So,
good deal. Thank you, Scotty. We'll have you in a little bit, or do we? Nope.
No, I don't have anything on there.
Okay.
Don't go nowhere. I got to talk to you anyway.
All right.
Okay, did we vote on we didn't, but we got a motion and a second.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. Who was the motion and a second, just to make sure?
Me and Lockie.
Lockie and Hill?
Yeah. No.
Hill and Lockie.
Yeah, Hill and Lockie.
Hill and Lockie, okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you. I got lost on that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tracy. Okay, Ms. Austin? Ms. Judy?
Good morning, Commissioner. Today, I just have one item, and it is to bring back the Employee of the Month policy that was presented at the last meeting. It was tabled due to concerns over eligibility of county supervisors. After speaking with Ms. Willan and Carlin, we made the recommendation and adjusted the policy to allow for the award to be available to supervisors on a biannual basis. So twice a year, supervisors would be eligible to receive the award. Everything else remains the same.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Peacock. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Got a second by Commissioner Hill. Discussion.
Yeah, real quick, Willanda, that allows just the supervisor to be in their own pool. They're not going to be competing with other staff.
No, I think we intend it to be, it can
at
be
large.
their own
No,
pool, but we were in this case going to have one employee of the month, but twice a year you could have a supervisor that gets it.
They're thrown in the pool on that
Up to twice a year.
twice.
Okay, so
So
don't
they have
10
this-
months of the year, it would be your staff, and then twice a year, you could potentially have a supervisor that can get it.
And that's fine. I wouldn't want the twice a year that supervisors, that they're all just supervisors are being considered for the employee
Right,
of the
yeah,
month.
that's what I said. They need to be at
So just
large.
all of them pool together,
That's right.
let whoever decides.
Yeah, that's
decides
the
that.
intention. It's just that we would limit to twice a year for supervisors.
Also, once every 6 months, not 2 months.
Right, right.
But that doesn't include senior staff, just supervisors and below.
Right. We left department directors out of this at this time. So just supervisors and staff.
Okay, any more discussion, comments? Okay. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Okay, Miss Jordan, are you on the line? Thank you, Miss Judy.
You're welcome.
Michelle?
She said her internet's having trouble, so if you want to skip her item.
Okay, let's
come back when she's on.
skip.
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
I can hear you, but the app won't come up for me to unmute myself.
Well, we can hear you. Good.
All right, so this is requesting board approval for approval of the settlement agreement between former employee Christopher Burge. This is to resolve his claims regarding employment discrimination. This is a mediated settlement agreement that's already been approved by Mr. Burge and the county's insurance carrier, and now we just need board approval.
Okay. What's the pleasure of the board?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
We got a motion by Commissioner Hill. Do I hear a second? Second by Commissioner Lockie. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Okay, motion carried 4-1. Commissioner Peacock on the opposite side. Okay? Thank you, Michelle. Do you have anything else while we got you? Or do you maybe wait to the round table?
She can't unmute herself.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay, next on the agenda would be Ms. Willann Daniels.
This is a request for board review and discussion of rental facilities transition plan prepared by staff. I won't read you the entire memo, but in order to stay in line with social distancing guidelines, we're recommending a phased approach, starting with phase 1 to be implemented when guidelines are greater than 10 but less than 50. We would then allow any facilities such as a pavilion at Citizens Lodge, for instance, things of that nature to be allowed to be rented again. Phase 2, when the guidelines are greater than 50 but less than 100, I believe the rest house might fall into that category, for instance. And then phase 3, when the governor expands social distancing guidelines to greater than 100, then we would bring back on the facilities that meet those guidelines.
Okay.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
We got a motion by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Peacock. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign, motion carried 5-0. Okay, and we've already taken care of M. So public hearing, we do not have anything. Community development, Miss Wendy.
Good morning. This is Wendy Schlesinger, Community Development.
Morning.
The first item I have this morning is a request for a SHIP program mortgage subordination and exception. Ms. Davis is requesting subordination of the SHIP program purchase assistance mortgage dated May 21st, 2018 in the amount of $5,000 due to recent disasters of COVID-19 and Hurricane Michael. Refinancing of the first mortgage is necessary. Ms. Davis qualifies to refinance to access equity under the 2015-2018 Local Housing Assistance Plan. The LHAP states that the county may consider subordination if the first mortgage is being refinanced at a lower rate with no cash out, and refinancing of the closing costs do not increase the loan balance beyond the original loan amount. In this case, closing costs will exceed the amount of the original mortgage, and an exception to the LHAP requirements are requested. The goal of housing is for the participants to be able to afford the first mortgage, and we don't want to see the home have to be sold or go into foreclosure. This will reduce her monthly note. So we're requesting approval for mortgage subordination and to ask for the exception for the closing cost to exceed the amount of the original first mortgage, with permission for the chairman to sign.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Lockie, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor? Raise your right hand. Whatever. You got both of them. Which I guess they can't hear.
Yeah. We're only one vote once.
Yeah, only vote one. This is for B. Okay, motion carried 5-0. Okay, Miss Wendy, next.
Okay, so the next is a request for a resolution for a new process that authorizes the county administrator to approve and sign requests for subordination of Florida Housing Finance Corporation program mortgages. Just like the case before, there may be some participants that may need to refinance, and it's tricky because the timing with the bank deadlines sometimes may not meet the meetings that we have for approval by the board. So we're requesting permission for the county administrator to sign and approve subordination of mortgages for eligible participants. Thank
Okay.
you.
We got a motion by Commissioner Lockie, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor, raise your right hand and or say aye. Motion carried, 5-0.
Thank you.
Okay, Miss Wendy?
Okay, and now we have a request for board approval to set a public hearing for a Verizon wireless tower for the construction of a 260-foot wireless telecommunications tower on property leased by Larry and Carolyn Baggett to be located on the west side of Highway 71 South, approximately 0.74 miles south of Mission Road in unincorporated Jackson County. This request also includes a variance to Section 74-448A4, which requires landscaping around all visible equipment, shelters, and/or cabinets. Requesting approval to set a public hearing for the next Board of County Commission meeting scheduled for May 26, 2020 at 6 p.m.
Okay. We have a motion to set a public hearing at 6:15 by Commissioner Hill, second by Commissioner Lockie. All in favor, raise your right hand. Whoops. Go ahead. Motion carried. Sorry.
Yeah, Wendy, real quick, they have been notified of the availability on the top of the tower, correct?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I couldn't understand what you said.
The space on the top of the tower, the top third, that's in the ordinance from August of 15, they've been made aware of that?
Well,
Make sure, that's right.
yeah, Wendy, he's just talking about something that should be in the staff report, talking about county having access to placing one of our communication devices. So just mention it to Amber to be sure it's correct.
It should be on all.
Yes, she's verifying it is correct. I'm sorry, Commissioner, I couldn't understand what you were saying.
Good, you're fine.
Okay, it's correct.
And the motion passed 5-0. So Miss Wendy, next item.
Okay, so we are requesting board approval to set a public hearing for a small-scale amendment to propose land use change from Ag 2 to Industrial 1, located on 9.78 acres, approximately 1.8 miles east of Highway 231 on the northeast corner of Highway 162 and Holy Neck Road in unincorporated Jackson County, Florida, requesting approval to set a public hearing for the next Board of County Commission meeting scheduled for May 26, 2020 at 6:15 p.m.
Yeah, is that near the Southern Cattle Company?
Is that near Southern Cattle Company? Do you know, Miss Wendy?
Yeah.
If you can bear with me one moment, we'll let you know. Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
Okay, we got a motion to set a public hearing at 6:15 on 26th of May by Commissioner Lockie and second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you, Miss Wendy.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Do it, Ms. William, we'll do Mary Apostle and then the public and then get the update.
That's fine.
Okay. Ms. Apostle Johnson, are you on the line?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
God, Yahweh, sitting before the county commission, requesting free counsel for the public on a volunteer basis, granted you give me space to use once, twice, or 3 times a week.
Sorry, Ms. Apostle Johnson, no action today. Thank you.
Okay,
Okay, Fred, at this time, do we have any questions or comments from the public?
Okay, at this time, we're going to take comments from the public. If you'd like to raise your hand to speak, just a reminder, *9 if you're dialed in via phone, and you may use the raise hand button if you are joined via computer or mobile device. At this point, I see no hands raised.
Okay, thank you, Fred. At this time, we'd like to get we need to get an update from GP Strategies, Mr. Ben Martino. Ben, you on the line?
Both of them have been unmuted on our end, but I think they're still muted on their end.
Good morning, commissioners and staff. How are you? How are you today? Update from GP Strategies. We also have Dan Knitz on the line, other project manager. We're going to start, if you have in front of you, at the top of our project progress report. I'll refer to Dan now for an update to ongoing construction and other large projects.
Good morning, commissioners.
Morning.
So first off, I'd just like to thank you for having us on. It's nice to see everybody actually on the Zoom call right now. Miss seeing you guys in the office. So first off, I want to say at 10 a.m. this morning, we have the mandatory pre-bid meeting at Citizens Lodge. We re-advertised with the help of Tracy and team to go ahead and list it for another 2 weeks. So that will be taking place actually right now. That's with CRA and Brian. So it's a shortened time frame for that. It's a 2-week listing as opposed to a 30-day listing. We're pretty excited to get that one on the road as well. We've been working with FEMA to lock down the actual design of the roof. The outcome for that, I think, is going to be very positive with a standing seam roof as opposed to a expensive roof that they originally proposed, and it would kind of be a difficult feat with the labor shortage to install that kind of specialized roof. So good movement on that. Like I said, we're hoping to wrap that up in the next week and a half or so. So just kind of give you a heads up, that's coming down the pike. Also have been working with Carlin, Pam, and company to expand the advertising network for citizens and other projects. We think that it's important right now to get as much advertisement coverage as we can so that we have as many bids as we can to get the best price for the county. Also, I did want to touch on the signs. It's been a.
Hold on just a second.
Yes, sir.
Okay, no, I thought I had a question. Go ahead, though. We'll ask you. Go ahead.
Okay. So to continue on the path of the signs information, I did write down, as did Scotty and Tracy, for the lettering, the reflectability, the spelling of some of the roads. I will say to that point with the lettering sizing, I will verify and I will have a response back to you all definitely by the end of the shift today, as far as the lettering and the specifications. And, you know, if Scotty wants to be the representative of that, send the correspondence, that's fine. But as a team, we'll definitely get an answer on that. As far as what's being replaced, there should not be a reduction in any sort as far as lettering sizing. Reflectability, if there is any improvements to that, that's definitely a discussion that we can have to make improvements, just know that right now it's a like for like replacement as far as the signs go. And the spelling of the roads, if there are any roads that are spelled incorrectly, definitely before the new signs get printed, that's something that we're going to want to make sure that we wrap up within the next 2 weeks, so we can continue on that road.
Yeah, make sure we get with the sheriff on that because he's in charge of 911 now, so we want to make sure it's all correct.
Okay, I'll take the action to get with the sheriff on the spelling and have hopefully a comprehensive list of those signs by the end of the week, so we can make sure the information gets translated.
Reach out to Jeff Johnson with the sheriff's department. Be the one.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you. All right. Are there any further questions on the signs at this point? Okay. Moving on to the 4177 road bids. I wanted to provide an update to that. We are working with our sub right now to come up with the total scope for the bid packs. Those are due to be completed by end of shift tomorrow, 5/13. The review of those completed bid packs is going to be taking place on the 14th and the 15th of this month, with a target advertisement date of the 18th of May.
I got a question on that.
Yes, sir.
I mean, FEMA already had the material that's supposed to go on each road. So the scope there of what product is supposed to be put out there is already there. The thing would be the spec on the actual dirt that's put out there on what kind. So why is it taking so long just to do that? I mean, I would think that would have been an easy thing to go out. Now, our concerns is the product that they're actually putting on there, the specs of the dirt that's being put out. So what's the holdup?
Yes, sir. I can definitely take a look to see all the details of that. But there was some reconciliation of work completed versus what work needed to be completed. We've been kind of working with All Day Owl and also Scotty to reconcile that list, just to make sure that we do cover everything on this last sweep of 4177.
Go ahead.
The bids that are going out, the board had a chance to look at those bids? Because just from my personal viewpoint is that mine's supposed to be a lot of lime mixed in when I get the scope change. Is that going to be included in that bid?
We can make, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. I had raised my hand. This is Josh.
Go ahead.
Not sure if you can hear me, but yeah, that scope of work was provided, I think at the last meeting.
This is on the small projects, right?
No.
Not the improvements.
There was, for you will see a lot in districts 4 and 5 where the lime rock is added, and there was a subtraction of the unclassified field. So yes, your improvements, as you requested, have been included and provided in the line item scope road by road. So you take a look at that.
Okay. Carry on. We always have questions about 4177.
Yeah.
Understand.
But from the scope, there were some clarifications that we wanted to make in the that based on the last one, we wanted to clarify, get those added, and then discuss details on scarifying how deep, what everything means from what FEMA is. It's not changing FEMA scope, it's defining it clearer for everyone. So that took a while, but then there's also some regulations and contract issues or procurement issues that we were trying to resolve that took most of the time.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank you. With that, I'd like to turn it back over to Ben for public assistance.
All right. So I'm going to start. Sorry, was there something else?
And hold on, Commissioner Lockie.
Ben is the one that spoke first.
Mhm.
Ben, you mentioned earlier the lodge repairs and some of the other building repairs that we're getting no interest in those bids. Is that correct? Are we removing the bid dates? Are we backing them up?
Yes, sir. And as Dan alluded to, there's been progress from the discussions with expanding the announcements, essentially reaching more contractors, more public, getting more interest in these bids.
Are they being bid individually or as packages?
As far as each building?
Yes.
Individually, sir.
Is it possible, do you think we could combine those smaller repairs so to make it more palatable to some of these other bigger contractors that would take them all on?
Yes, sir. That's certainly a strategy. So it's something we've done with different types of projects, including buildings or roofs. We're entertaining that idea with fencing spread throughout the county rather than bid these out or select contractors individually. There's discussion on having that done as one whole unit. Things like that, of course, we can discuss further and take that discussion to a concrete plan.
And I'm just thinking maybe like with Cypress, the park at Cypress, the lodge, and these other smaller projects that we have, if we could possibly put them in one package and maybe get more interest in going out and doing those and get them locked down. Now the other, like the Road and Bridge Department building and those others, obviously would be bid separate. But these smaller projects, I would think maybe we could package those all in one and bid those out and see how that comes in at.
Yes, sir. So what we'll do with that recommendation is we will gather together, Tracy, myself, Dan, a few of the other stakeholders. We have very specific scope of work documents that are approved by FEMA. We'll make sure those are included in specific, itemized out, separated, you name it, so that there's no creep in those scopes and that there's clearly.
I just want to be clear that that's just a thought I had. I don't know if the board wants to consider doing that, but certainly if we're not getting any interest in bids, that we might want to go out and package them together. But that's
might make it more interesting.
I would agree with you, and GP Strategies will take care of that. We will get a package together and present that to you sort of as a first format. And if it's something the board and other staff would like to do.
Do we need to bring that to the board because that delays us another 2 weeks? Yeah. I mean, they should be working on it. They just put it together, right?
But that's just an option. I mean, it doesn't change the scopes of the work.
No, it doesn't change any scope. And, we're not talking about dollar changes. We're just combining into one larger procurement. So unless there's something else I'm missing, I don't believe this is a formal board meeting that would have to go to.
I mean, what would we consider small projects? I mean, some of them may be 300,000-400,000. If you throw a big one in there, they may take. I mean, again.
Well, I just leave that up to them. But I think the smaller ones that you're not going to get a world of bidders for the Cypress project or the lodge or these other small projects that we have. Just put those together as one package, and the others will stand on themselves.
Yeah.
It is certainly something we can package together very quickly. We can at least get your eyes on it. Whether it requires an official board meeting and gathering, we can certainly bring it to you individually. in the next few days. I've identified, the ones you're mentioning, as well as other small structures throughout some of the parks, small repairs and other county buildings. So we can certainly package them together and see if that is adequate for what you know of as contractors in the area, and if it would be more appealing to them.
I think it might generate a little more interest than having
Yes,
each
sir.
bid on different.
Commissioner Peacock.
Ben, I'm looking at your chart, and you got the administration building as awarded. It says award.
What page are you on?
I think they got bids, but I don't know if it's been awarded.
Yeah, this is Dan. This is just to note that it's in the award process.
Yeah, we want to
Yes.
discuss that before you award it.
Well, we award.
Absolutely. Yes.
All right.
The award process is anywhere from the closing of the procurement all the way to the approval of the bid, which will obviously be brought to you all before that's happened.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
If there's nothing else, I'll continue on. I'm down on the 5th page of your update, FEMA Public Assistance Projects. Your first bullet point speaks to the large debris project. I hope Danielle is on, and I see Clay. We have a great update through several weeks of meetings with upper management, FDEM, the firm that is doing the validation, and others that have been brought in. We, as of 9:15 this morning, verified that $5.78 million is now being approved for payment. Again, this is a completed project, spent money, as you all know very well. It was our recommendation that once that project was obligated, which was on Saturday, so 3 days ago, we immediately requested that 50% of that project be paid directly to the county rather than waiting for the full validation. So that's where that amount of, and I will take accountability on that report in front of you. That number's wrong. It is what did I say? 5.7 million. So I've checked, I verified in Florida's system this morning, and they have advanced it and approved for that amount to be paid. So it just is, daily, I'll have an update for staff on when that payment will be actually received. We do anticipate within a week. So that I wanted to start with that very high note, very good process and progression to that project. Questions on there?
So the 10.76 is wrong too. It should be 11.4. You said we was getting
Directly on debris, it's 10.7. There were costs in there that were actually some of the cut and push. There were invoices that included activities that were not within the actual time frame that we're discussing. So when you're talking about actual quote unquote debris project, which is this project, it's 10.7 million. Okay. Kind of moving on, similar to the point we were discussing about projects and how we can package these together. The Ag Center Arena may be one that we can look at, knowing now that the determination is in line with the engineers, the insurance, the manufacturer's recommendations. That is repair in place. So rather than a full, almost a full replacement of that building, which was what a couple of the FEMA cost estimators had come up with, we deemed that not necessary, and that was also a recommendation by, again, those original inspections done by the manufacturer, the engineers, and even the insurance. So we have that scope of work in line and approved now for that arena. On county signs, we were able to identify mitigation for nearly all of the signs throughout the county, of course, ones that meet the requirement for needing such. And these are specific to better anchoring, even cement footings on these to make them much stronger, make them last longer, whether it be with wind or debris hitting them. And of course, this was reviewed by All Day Howell with getting some of their input, as well as Scotty and other staff. So it's an additional amount of funding for those signage to not only be replaced, but also be mitigated, and in this case, much stronger and better for the county and longevity. So that's something we have approved and advanced on that project, and it is specific to all signage throughout the county. The project for dirt roads, completed work is submitted. It's in FEMA's validation queue. They are reviewing the project right now. A couple requests for information, some RFIs that are coming back on clarification on certain materials and work. So we're actively working there and identifying others so that we can respond to them before it gets any further, so that that money and that project can be obligated and paid back to the county. Some good progress with PPDR just this week. Also, for your awareness, the infrastructure branch director for FEMA. So that is a senior management position that oversees specifically Hurricane Michael recovery and all applicants. That position has changed, and we're in contact with that new IBD, is that acronym, of course. So with that, and specifically with PPDR, we've requested an in-person meeting to take place on Thursday. They've received all of the documentation. We've ensured that there weren't any lost communications with the changeover in command. Again, with that call for a meeting, we're going to have a better understanding for what else is needed. As of even the last board meeting, but as you can see in front of you, those FEMA inspections being on hold until after COVID-19 was something that we thought was a little unnecessary, being that they can do windshield surveys and not have contact directly with staff or even the public. They could simply stay on the roadway, not have to come into the homeowners' properties. So that's the first order of business that we're requesting move forward, is that those further FEMA inspections take place as soon as possible. As we know, debris is not going anywhere. It only causes more headaches and more hazards the longer it sits on the ground, for both the homeowners and for anyone with the county. So again, I will have a much better understanding and update to the specifics of the project, but for now we're making headway on bringing in all new staff members, bringing them up to date, and requesting that this process continue right away. On the topic of debris with Endeavor, we had the scope of work aligned and agreed upon by FEMA. This was another very big win. As you know, we've been back and forth, or as you can maybe recall, we've been back and forth with FEMA on developing and approving the actual scope of work as estimated by both the debris contractors and the debris management firm. That was finally pushed through and approved. We are waiting for that to go to obligation. As of right now, it's at recipient review. So that's the next step after final FEMA. So that is a progress to that report since it was printed and given to you. I've verified with our project manager that as soon as we, I say quote unquote, we approve that scope of work. So just as a awareness to the process, the recipient will give their final blessing, and then it'll come back to the applicant, to Jackson County, to sign, date, and submit it. We don't have any problem with it currently and don't foresee any reason for that scope of work to change. Therefore, I verified once we are in agreement and sign that document, work can begin. So we are actively getting a plan for bringing in the contract, the debris haulers, the monitors, as well as the archaeological services, all hands on deck, ensuring that permits are pulled, that we have staging areas, debris management sites, you name it. So it's a relatively small operation. We're estimating $127,000 for the full project. That's with all of those aforementioned permits and services for monitoring. So that will be very active in the coming probably 2 weeks. We'll start to ramp up, and we will likely require a little bit of input, maybe from the board, on if there's certain decisions need to be made on areas for management sites or whatnot. But we're certainly keeping all players well informed at this point. FDEM is continuing with the 2.4 million emergency protective measures. We're also twice a week holding meetings with their management staff and the team that's validating, pushing for faster and better results. They, to this point, have what they need for these requests for information that have come on verifying activities and whatnot. Last I've checked, they're fully validated the original expedited part of that project, and are nearing 40% roughly as of Monday on the remaining amount. So at this point, until we have our next meeting, I won't have another update for that additional amount of validation. Spring Creek Boardwalk, again, that was a project that had some discrepancies in the scope of work, both what we knew of as identified damages from the storm needed repair and what FEMA took from their field assessments. We worked hand in hand with FEMA and had that scope of work changed to align with not only what we know of to be fixed, but what is obviously in the procurement and the bid documents. So that was another success there. We sort of mentioned the mitigation for the Citizens Lodge roof, more robust. It's a stronger, better roof. We've worked with CRA, their architect, and some other subject matter experts to gain insight to that and agreement, and working with the FEMA mitigation specialist. So all of those align now for that project. Something small, but another example of working through the system and with FEMA and FDEM. There's a couple of sheds and a carport at Blue Springs that we worked with Rhett Daniels, the director. He identified a better design, essentially combining these structures into one larger one. That project was formulated at a late date with FEMA, which was good, and it was also progressed. We just signed off on that document, and it's what they call an alternate project. So rather than replace or repair those existing sheds, is what they were, in a carport, we're working to have one larger, better one put in place that will serve the same function, but be much easier for maintenance and for use out there at the park. Moving down, I think I've covered everything else for PPDR. The debris removal, again, this was printed and we had a lot of work just over the last 3 or 4 days with the obligation, but obviously as of yesterday and then this morning, the approval of that 50% of that PW.
Ben.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
On here, you got the $312,000 for cost of dirt roads submitted. What about the paved roads? Or is this in here somewhere else that were damaged?
I didn't have a notable update for the paved roads, but I'll touch on it just for some awareness. So thank you for bringing that up. That is specific to just dirt road, and that's permanent repairs to the roads after Hurricane Michael. As far as for paved roads, if you recall, about 6 months ago, we requested and were approved by FEMA to develop a scope of work for any and all of those damaged paved roads. This is much better than someone sitting remotely, looking at documents and pictures, developing their own scope of work, who doesn't have knowledge of the local code standards and just the situation in general. So all that being said, we're working through with All Day Howell and Phillips Engineering, our services that we've contracted with them to develop those scope of work documents, taking those agreed damage assessment reports early on and developing these overall documents for the project to go to obligation. We're doing this in packages to begin with. So, you know, I don't want to say this is uncharted territory, but it's certainly with such a large amount of roadways, it's certainly a big task and a win for us to be doing this. We want to do it correctly, and that's what we're ensuring is taking place. Again, this will have for that scope for those roadways much better developed and detailed rather than FEMA develop them themselves. Okay. That's where we are with that project. So as far as a project in their system with FEMA, we're not going to be showing much movement there, but the progression's happening in the field, and that work is happening in real time. But the project itself, there's really no input from FEMA until they have the documents from us, at least in the packages as they come. So page 7, this alludes to money, kind of where we are with the several all of our projects, what's been obligated. Again, that's changed, good change. That 10.7 million is now obligated. That's category A at the very top. Technically, it's not a submitted for reimbursement, so we won't show it there, but it is. And I don't want to throw that word advancement out there because there's a lot of negativity that goes with FEMA and getting an advancement. They're considering this an advancement because they have not validated the full total amount that it completes the 5.7 million, but it is all completed work. So it's not an advancement. They have everything they need. We're just requesting that the money be paid well before they go through every trip ticket and truckload ticket, because as I've unfortunately shown to you all, they're very slow with that process. So reimbursed to date, you know, I'm sure Clay and Danielle are looking, you know, these projects with I'm sorry, I drew a blank for a second. So we have Citizens Park, that was paid. We also will be getting that little over 5 million reimbursed. Again, I'm hoping in the next week or so, I'll be updating staff daily from here on as I check in with FDEM on where that payment is and when to actually have it expected in hand. Very quickly with hazard mitigation, really, you know, we're ensuring we've gotten a contact with the FDEM representative who's reviewing the eligibility, but also just the overall projects. At this point, it's a very broad review of applicant eligibility and project eligibility but they were submitted, those 4 projects you see in front of you, all of the generators being in one project, Hoosier Road, Communication Tower, the hazard mitigation plan update. So again, those were submitted well within time for FDEM to begin their review. We'll have updates as we get them. Probably once a week, at least one of our staff will reach out directly to that representative, make sure they have everything they need sooner rather than later. If there's no other question, well, I'm sorry. NRCS, I had a great conversation with their representative, Herica. Upon speaking with Will Ann and a couple others, we thought that it was obviously well time to have a meeting with them. Obviously, some restrictions on travel and coming in person. At the very least, I requested from Herica a conference, a Zoom meeting to sort of put all those pieces together that have been moving. There've been, several uncertainties over the, the last couple of communications that have gone back and forth on what they were looking at, what was eligible, and, getting that path forward. I'm going to ensure personally that communication stays regular, and we get this first meeting as well as recurring meetings with Herica and her team to ensure that we don't have any further delays, and we'll require no more excuses for, them able to come out on site or able to look at eligibility based on time or whatnot. So I know that's definitely a moving piece right now, but we're ensuring that those get tightened up. If there's no questions on those couple of programs that we're doing in my update, that's it for me. I'd like to turn it back over to Josh if there's nothing else.
Okay, thanks, Ben. I'll quickly go through these, what remains on this report, starting with the CDBG-DR, which continues to go on. As the last report, we submitted our comments on the plan. We have not seen any adjustment to that plan as a result of those comments, but that could be forthcoming. In the meantime, we have developed a proposal that we'll be reviewing with Willan and the administration about a four-step approach, which would be to finalize that recovery plan, to build out top 15 priority projects, which are only infrastructure, not housing, so would not be housing related. That's going to be primarily run through the state. And then prepare those applications up to 15, which I think 15 is probably about what we need. If we need to expand that and we want to throw more projects at this and applications, we can. And then to develop any monitoring or guides, manuals that are going to be a requirement to comply with HUD. So we'll have all that done over the next, we'll have a proposal to do that over the next 3 months. So applications will probably become accepted in August or September of this year, if this whole debacle hasn't pushed things back, but it really shouldn't have. So we will be in a position to submit those applications, and the team that we're going to use to support this has a lot of experience with DEO, and the last time they did this with Irma. So the ins and outs, what the applications look like, what they are needed in the application process. So we'll present that and see if we can move forward with that proposal. As far as broadband, obviously this is changing a lot of minds, pushing money in different places. So we did have a conversation with the USA Ready team about that. We already received a grant with. They've reached out and said that there are some specific HHS money for telehealth that could be related to infrastructure, and we're continuing to coordinate with them. Hasn't come out yet, but as things develop, they want to stay right with us to be ready to react to that funding once it becomes available. And then also there was a meeting concerning the 1.8 of the EDA grant. DEO RIF did say there is flexibility, but let's stay the course and stick with EDA and find out what they're going to do. So that decision hopefully will be coming out in about a month on what EDA wants to do. We'll continue to stay in contact with them, see if this CDBG or this COVID-19 changes people's mindsets on priority of funding, and hopefully it will. The critical issues, we spoke to most of those already. The cost waiver, we still haven't received a response, and we're continuing to knock on their doors. And then I want to skip the rest of these priorities and objectives we discussed over the rest of the report. So skipping down to 4177, again, not much has changed. We've already spoke about the schedule to complete this work. Receive the information on what work has been accomplished on the alternate projects. So alternative projects, those all line up. District 1, that work for the 155, we have to pull apart a lot of the invoices, so we're not 100% confirmed or validated that 155, or if there's more in that 155 than was initially approved, we may have to go back and get the rest of that approved, or it may be good. So a little bit more on District 1 that we have to decipher. But apart from the projects moving forward in the bids to finalize the project, there has been action on Collins Road. I think the last report we told you that state submitted that to FEMA just last week. From this report, when we submitted it to now, FEMA has asked us to post an environmental final notice for 15 days of public comment, and then that should move on to final approval. And I expect the rest of the alternate projects that you had in the pipeline will be following that pattern and hopefully coming out of them in the next several weeks. So that will turn into obligated versions to these projects, and we can put those out to bid and do the work. So that would include the Sweet Pond, Cardinal, Collins, and I forget the other one in District 2.
Two more in District 2.
Okay. What are the other Collins, and what were they again?
Collins, Shallow Church Loop. I think that's right, Ron. You got too many shallows. One up off the Highway 2, and then Cypress Road.
Okay, yeah.
I think 2 of them were in on one PW, and then one was on one.
It's Cardinal Roof for use.
But there was 3 of them.
Yeah. So the state said you can't do it. We had that back and forth on what they were doing. We took a worst case scenario, but it seems that FEMA is moving these forward. So hopefully we won't have to worry about waiting until all the work is completed. We can start these projects, do the final cost, and then go back and ask for more.
What step are we on out of the 450 steps we got to go through? No.
So with that one, EHP would be the last one. We posted for 15 days. We send back that if there was or was not public comment, then it goes to FEMA final review. It goes, and then it's the version is obligated.
So college got ahead of these others?
Yes, and that's the first one we've seen.
Yeah, how?
How?
Maybe that's a different question.
Yeah, I don't know if
2 or 3, 2 years or something.
Well, just last month they submitted them. They got out of the state queue and pushed them to FEMA finally. So FEMA turned it around, and I'm actually a little bit shocked at their speed of turnaround. It's been in the state for, I guess, years.
I think Dr. Spires has got a question.
Yeah, what's being done to Cardinal Road?
That must be one you put in for improvements.
Yeah.
Oh, he just paved it.
Well, that may be some of the kind of the issue with what's been approved, what's not. So if it's in and that was done, then we might have to go back and kind of accept the request as they approve it. I will say this, in the Collins Road, one of the question was, has this work already been completed? We said no. So just because it was completed doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be an issue.
The Collins Road?
Collins Road, they asked, was it done already?
The normal bringing it back to where it was at has been done. Yeah, right. I think Dr. Spires said
Cardinal.
Right.
Cardinal.
In his mask, I think he said since he's already paid that you can give that to District 2.
No. You put my mask back.
Maybe I couldn't understand this math.
Your mask man.
So, yeah, if that's already been completed, we can try to work around it.
Go ahead, Dr. Sparks.
Try to work around it. What does that mean?
Well, so,
Get the money.
Not again.
yeah,
Paperwork hadn't been.
Did you pay for it out of your discretionary money, or did you, how'd you have it
It
paid?
was CDBG grant and construction fund.
Oh, okay. The construction
And
fund?
then, yeah, District One, Rob, what's that all about? Put my mask up. Looking tough. Obligated 155,913.87. District One, Rob. Obligated, what does that mean?
See, Rob. Yeah, see, Rob Robinson.
oh, that is,
That's different. So, yeah, one,
from
three.
our understanding, those are the versions that have already been completed. And for a change order, so you had and again, this is what we've seen, at 155, don't necessarily know everything that's in process. 155 was approved, and we're going back through invoices related to that project and trying to find out how to account for that 155,000 of.
Did you rock some roads? On improvements? Okay.
Chip seal.
Well, he
Not
got
recently.
approved. This will be
Like to
approved.
It was on, I think, 3 roads, across 3 roads that, from the invoices that we saw.
You got so many paid, you can
Are
get.
you talking about Christmas Road, Pete Road? Those were 2 that I know that the mixture of soil was a little bit too clay and they're very, very slippery. I think Scotty, are you there? Scotty?
Yes, sir. I'm here.
When we discussed those roads?
Yes, yes, we did. Christmas and Pete being slick and stuff. And I got some pricing on what it'd take to do the roads together. And that's what I've been trying to work through, all this FEMA stuff, trying to determine what was done, what wasn't done, to try to prevent us missing out on something, because it gets so cloudy. You know,
What's the remedy for those that were mixed improperly? And
I mean,
Essex Road was another one.
well, I mean, they need to be, the best thing on those is to go in there and put the right material in there. I don't know how FEMA looks at that, if it comes back on us, if we did it improperly and we're paid to do it, that's above anything I know. But ultimately the answer to those is either rock them or pave them, because can continue to put clay in there, and it seems like it they said when they first done them that they didn't have any problems with them, and then as you grade them and everything moves around, sand comes up and clay, the problem continues. So I mean, the remedy to that is to put a hard surface on it and make sure your drainage is adequate.
Okay, what's our strategy? See, I think these roads have been compensated for already, but what do we do at this point?
Well, if I can step in, if there is additional work, you have potential to have additional funding available after all your work is complete. That we could look at that budget and see what the cost to fix those roads would be, and see if it's enough funding, at least supplemental, to go back and put the right material on. And I could provide those numbers to Scotty if he already has a scope.
Just need to get with Scotty and Josh on that.
Yeah, like I said, let's just get together, Josh, and see if we can't.
These pages reference.
Okay. All righty. Can we schedule time to do that? Resume.
As soon as we get off of the meeting and everything, I'll get with Josh and we'll try to set up a time this week that I can sit down with him and try to match.
I'll be in town Thursday, so.
Okay, that'll work. We'll get together on Thursday.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and the rock that's referred to here, that has not been done.
Right.
So if you can also enlighten me on that too, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank
Like
you.
I said, we'll be talking about 4177 for a while. until you get our money, then we might not. Okay.
And I think that, yeah, that's it on 4177, and I think that's it for us.
Okay, thank y'all, and keep us posted on them paved roads. Like I said, they're not getting better. You know, the ones that was damaged by the hurricane, they're not getting better every day. They're getting worse every day. So.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Guys have to deal with it. They falling apart. We need to push that on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions for anything with FEMA related with?
Where's the money?
Yeah. Peacock said, where's our money? I say the same thing. But, okay.
Can I clarify one final thing to payments? And Clay, I'm sure I was confusing, and I apologize for, throwing maybe numbers that were a little inaccurate. The actual amount that will be received on the debris project is $5,378,452. So it was 5.37 million, not 5.7. So I wanted to clarify that before I left.
Okay. Good deal. Thanks again. Okay. We've already done the public, so we'll go around to the round table. Is that where we're at? Miss Willan?
I just have a couple things. One, I would like for the board to consider setting a special meeting for Johnson Controls to make their presentation regarding the sheriff's office on May 26th at 4:30 p.m. So you just come early for your regularly scheduled meeting at 6 to be able to hear that presentation.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Got a motion by Commissioner Peacock, second by Commissioner Hill. All in favor, raise your right hand. All opposed, like sign, motion carried 5-0. Okay.
And then I sent you all an email, but just to say publicly that staff evaluations were complete on April 21st. If any of you want to view any of those evaluations, feel free to get with Ms. Judy Austin in HR, and she can make those available. And the process went really well this time. It was our first after having the full year. It went very smoothly with basically, we are looking to streamline the process a little bit, but it went well. And then just wanted to remind you all of the special meeting for Dollar General next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. We've got it arranged where there will be members of the public available to come before you all want at the time. So that's at 6 o'clock next Tuesday. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner Peacock.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to mention one thing. If you pay attention to your mail, you probably saw the little broadband card, survey card that came out. And I'd just like to thank the staff, Joey Stackowitz and whoever else worked on it for getting that out. Just trying to get more feedback on broadband. So if you're talking to people, tell them to take that survey. That's all I have.
When will the survey be completed? I mean, is it ongoing? Is there a deadline today? I asked people to do. I saw the card, but I didn't know how long what kind of numbers we would.
I don't know the deadline, but there will be a cutoff on it. We're probably going to wait for this, hopefully get a surge off of these cards in probably a month or so and then cut it.
So do your census and do your
broadband. Not necessarily in that order.
They both need to be done. Uh-oh.
Well, you don't, Commissioner Locke, if you threw it in the garbage, not a problem. Just go to our website and take the broadband survey.
That's a good lead in.
Man of all options.
Have it on our website. You do the census online too.
That's right.
Okay. Commissioner Locke?
No.
Commissioner
Yeah,
Hill?
Red's still on the line.
Red, are you online?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just a quick question. What's the status of the recycling and where's the location? Again, just for clarification, I've had several constituents ask me about that area over on the wind, in kind of South of Mariana area for me in my district, Lake Seminole, Compass Lake area.
Right. The only facility that we have drop-offs for the general public is at our warehouse, 3530 Wiley Drive. We have the trailers outside 24/7, 365 to take the main items, cardboard, plastic, and paper.
Is they're picking up the routes being picked up? That's only, there's no other routes or anything being done?
There's the pickup for commercial cardboard and commercial paper only. No residential.
We still do have some trailers in different cities, right?
No, sir. All those were removed when we reduced the staffing. So we only have our person in the warehouse and our commercial driver picking up cardboard.
Oh, we have one in Graceville.
Where the county is at?
They're at City Hall.
Brett, did you hear him?
Brett.
Yes, sir.
Thought we had one at Graceville at City Hall.
Well, that Graceville does, Greenwood does, and I believe that's just the only two out in the public. You're correct. My apologies.
But they pull it in themselves.
Right. They made.
Oh, so that's not part of their route, it's part of the cities that has them in its route. Okay, okay.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure we knew that them were still there. Before. Okay. Anything else?
No, that's all I have.
Dr. Spires?
Yes, sir. I want to inquire about, are we in the process of trying to hire someone to pick up debris? I noticed that the grass is being cut now and the debris is being scattered everywhere.
Yes, Scotty, if you're still on the line, we've talked about that a little bit this morning.
Yeah, we're currently career source. The people went down to about 6 people, and we requested that, for them to get it back up to 10 or 12 or however many they can give us to pick up the regular litter. I mean, with the amount of miles we have, I mean, you can't even begin to try to pick it up with that many people and stay ahead of it. I've been trying to, if they mow one that's really bad, I try to move the people to that road the next day if I can. But also, I'm gonna get the grapple trucks. We got some overtime money and try to put a couple of people in each one of them and let them on Fridays just, go everywhere we went around something, that was there. You can see it now, and have them just start on a road, just follow the same route motor and start getting it up on Fridays and get all that out of the way. But as far as the litter pickup, I mean, I was telling Ms. Daniels, we're going to have to look seriously at going ahead and hiring some people if we're going to keep the litter picked up, because the other day we were picking up Peanut Road and you could go back that day and pick up almost just as much that people throw out, so, but with 1,000 miles, you're talking a pretty big force to try to stay ahead of these mowers as fast as they're mowing. I mean, they're covering the ground pretty good, and as they get, a little more experience in them, they'll go a little faster.
We could catch just a few of them jokers and give them a big old fine. We'll slow some of that.
That's true. Okay. Want to also say, Mr. Taylor, if you could encourage the operators who are cutting grass to maintain the existing right-of-way cutting path. In some places, they've narrowed it quite a bit, and if we ever needed to get right-of-way to do paving or whatever, our right-of-way would have been narrowed significantly, and I think that happened to prior contractors.
As they come through the second time, some of the areas that they didn't get as far out, they're going to get farther out, and some of those areas we're also going to use the brush cutter to get it, because I've told them to don't put themselves in a situation if they're uncomfortable getting that far over, don't get themselves in a situation. I'd rather take the brush cutter and go in and get it, but as they're coming back through the second time, they should get farther over, but I'll definitely address it, make sure that they're getting all the way out.
The intentions was to mow one strip.
Yes, sir. That's what we tried to do the first time around, and then as we.
If it was open and there was nothing in the way, I've seen that.
Right, like I said.
First time, just mow one time, and then the second time they're gonna come back and get it off.
Wider, okay.
Right.
And then one last thing is I had a request from a constituent about putting up no littering signs on Cardinal Road. Of course, the signs are no more benefit the people, yeah.
Well, it's almost like a challenge sometimes. You put them out. I notice there's more litter by the no littering signs.
Yeah.
But
could you just ride through and do an assessment for me and give the board some feedback, please?
Yes, sir, I will.
Do it on Shady Grove Road also. I've got that same request pending.
Just go anywhere in District 3, be fine.
Well, here's I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you catch them, you know. I mean, but if we could catch some people and put a big fine on them, I mean, it may make a difference. But I don't know. But like I said, I'll ride through some of these roads. I mean, I don't think it could hurt to put the signs up.
That's the question I've been told. I don't know how true this is. That it's a fishing game that patrol that to some degree, Sheriff.
I don't think it's a fishing game.
I've been told they've given some tickets when they've caught some people who've been littering.
No, they can because they have broader law enforcement.
Yeah. If they are, I've seen the commercial earlier, they find it, a lot of times they dump on state land. And that may be where you're talking about. And we can enforce it. The problem is, you know, usually they don't leave a lot of information in the pile of debris that they have dropped to or disposed of or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're able to go through it.
Or license plate flasher.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen televisions and sofas and all recliners and all kinds of things.
If there's something identifiable, that will trace it back to the person who's responsible. We've had people hired to clean houses out, and they'll just make them clean them out and do nothing. The homeowner didn't know it, but the person who dumped it is responsible for having it cleaned up.
Well, we've got whole house. I mean, there's probably truckloads on truckloads of mattresses and TVs in places, you know, and as we see them, we try to pick them up, or somebody calls, we try to go get them, you know, and I don't, you know, we try to go through it, you know, if we pick it up, or so does Mike Taylor, to try to find a name, to try to do something about it, but I haven't had a whole lot of luck with that part of it.
Go ahead, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
I don't know if a dumpster sometimes in some of these places might help. I don't know. I mean, it might be cheaper than picking it all up off the ground. They probably steal the dumpster.
Scotty, I think the mowing guys are doing a good job.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Rooks.
I don't have anything, and Danielle has texted me. She can't get on, but she doesn't have anything.
Okay. Sheriff, you got anything? Ms. Lane, anything else? Anybody else? I don't have anything. The meeting is adjourned.
Eric. Now,